My name was Ibrahim. I was an Imam, respected, disciplined, and a beacon of faith in my community. For years, I led prayers in an ancient mosque where the air was thick with tradition and unspoken fears. But beneath my austere exterior, a storm brewed. I felt empty, trapped in a cycle of rituals that no longer brought me closer to God. Each Friday, prayer began with conviction, but ended with a gnawing doubt. It was during one such prayer, surrounded by the echoes of my congregation, that I collapsed, a mere whisper of mortality. I thought I was lost, but instead, I found myself wandering in a desolate desert. Darkness engulfed me, yet from that shadow emerged a radiant figure, Jesus, reaching out with a love I had never known. Ibrahim. He called my name, and in that moment, everything shifted. He unveiled a cosmic battle, exposing the deception that had lured me into spiritual complacency. What I encountered was not mere theology. It was a revelation that shook the very foundation of my beliefs. I was shown the war within and the forces at play, manipulating not just faith, but the very fabric of our reality. I realized that my reverence had not been for God, but for a system designed to cage my spirit. Emerging from that coma, I was changed. Yet the world around me had not. My family, my friends, they labeled me a heretic. With every step I took toward the truth, I felt the weight of isolation crashing down. But within that fear lay a flicker of purpose, a calling to break free from the chains of deception and awaken others to the light I had seen. As I share this testimony, I invite you to reflect on your own journey. Are you trapped in your beliefs, or are you seeking a deeper truth? Before we dive deeper, I urge you to leave a comment below. Where are you watching from, and what time is it there? Your stories matter. And if you love Jesus as I do, subscribe to Truth from Beyond. I missed the comfort of belonging, the sense of purpose that had once defined me. This guilt clawed at my insides. I began to question whether the truth I'd uncovered was worth the painful disconnection from my roots. Was I really chosen to bear this message, or was I just a fool lost in fantasy? These thoughts spiraled through my mind like a relentless storm, pulling me deeper into the darkness. Nightmares soon returned, more vivid than before. I would dream of the desert, but it was not the glorious and enlightening one I had visited with Jesus. Instead, it was a place of desolation and fear, a reflection of the emotional turmoil I was enduring. Shadows danced around me, echoing my doubts and fears about the hidden agendas of those in power. I could feel their grip tightening around my community, feeding off the division and distrust perpetuated by the elite. It was as if my very soul was aware of the larger battle that loomed, yet I felt insignificant, cast adrift in a sea of suffering and deception. In my heart, I struggled against this tide of loneliness while grappling with the need to speak out. With each passing day, the urgency to share my revelations grew stronger. I often found solace in conversations late at night with a few close friends who were more open-minded. They listened, they questioned, and they pondered the same truths I had begun to embrace. We explored the implications of my experiences together, the idea that there was more beyond the physical realm, that our faith should inspire love and unity rather than fear and division. Our conversations, though grounded in doubt, began to plant seeds of hope, allowing me to believe that perhaps I was not alone in this awakening after all. Yet even with this glimmer of support, the fear of pushback haunted me. How would my family react if I spoke aloud the truths I now held so dearly? The tension between my heart and mind increased, each moment weighing heavier as the spiritual war escalated within me. I could no longer ignore the message Jesus had imparted. I felt compelled to rise, to share this love and awakening with my community, to challenge the deception that clouded their hearts. Although the shadows loomed large, I understood that my awakening had been not just for me, but for those still trapped in the cycles of fear. As I stepped further into my journey, I resolved to embrace this calling, ready to face whatever may come to reclaim the truth. After my awakening, I felt an urgent need to dive deeper into the truth that had been revealed to me. This internal quest led me to secretly explore the Bible, an act that felt both exhilarating and perilous. Each page I turned became a lifeline, connecting me to the profound teachings of Jesus. As I read, I felt a stream of divine wisdom washing over me, illuminating the dark corners of my soul that had been shrouded in doubt. The verses leaped off the page, resonating with the echoes of my newfound faith. Each scripture offered clarity and understanding, revealing the hidden agendas that sought to manipulate the minds of so many, including myself. I supplemented my readings with countless videos and testimonies of individuals who had found the same truth I was seeking. Hearing their stories of awakening and transformation filled me with hope. Each shared experience was a reminder that I was not alone in this journey. I saw reflections of my own struggles in their words, the same fears and doubts giving way to a powerful revelation. It was as if a thread connected us all, weaving together a tapestry of believers who had emerged from darkness into the light. The stories of souls rescued from despair reignited a fire within me, pushing me to embrace the truths that had long lurked in the shadows of uncertainty. Eventually, I found a small support group where like-minded individuals gathered to discuss their experiences and faith. Meeting in a quiet corner of the city, we shared not just our journeys but our hearts. Here, I discovered a renewed sense of peace, an environment where I could express my feelings without fear of judgment. Together, we processed the tension that lingered in our lives, the anxiety of confronting the spiritual war that raged not only in ourselves, but in the world around us. The discussions opened doors to deeper understanding, and with each conversation I felt the chains of secrecy loosening their grip on my spirit. Yet, even amidst this burgeoning sense of community, the specter of losing my family and heritage loomed large. I couldn't shake the fear that arose from the thought of being cast out forever. My loved ones were deeply entrenched in their beliefs, and the fear of their scorn haunted me. I loved my family dearly, and the realization that my awakening could lead to their rejection tore at my heart. The delicate balance between faith and familial loyalty weighed heavily on my mind, amplifying the inner conflict I experienced every time I engaged in the discussions with my new friends. Despite the tension, I felt empowered by the revelations I had received and the connections I had formed. The truth of Jesus began to overshadow my doubts, deepening my resolve to embrace my awakening, even if it meant walking a lonely path. I became determined to break free from the chains of deception that had kept me captive for so long. This journey was not just about my faith, but about engaging in the greater narratives of our world, where the elite continue to manipulate perceptions of truth for their agendas. I knew that true liberation would come only as I faced the realities of my choices head-on, ready to confront whatever may come, armed with the knowledge that I was no longer alone in this fight for truth. Through my transformative experience, I began to feel a divine calling deep within me, a purpose emerging from the ashes of my doubt and confusion. When I awoke from my coma, the enchanting atmosphere of the desert lingered with me. A place where I had met Jesus, received a revelation unlike any I had ever known. His presence illuminated those dark corners of my soul, revealing truths I was previously blind to. With that divine encounter, I understood I had been chosen to awaken others to the truth, to expose the deception that pervaded our faith, our lives, and our society. I realized the urgency of my role. This was not just about me anymore. As I delved deeper into my newfound understanding, I started to recognize the spiritual war being waged around us. It was a battle for the hearts and minds of individuals, a struggle against the elite who manipulated our beliefs and traditions for their gain, shaping a reality that kept us divided and fearful. I felt a deep sense of responsibility to alert my community, to bring to light the hidden agendas I had come to understand. The thought sent waves of anxiety rolling through me, knowing well that my message would not be welcomed by everyone. The fear of being labeled a heretic, of facing rejection from my family and friends was daunting, but I felt compelled to rise above that fear. I envisioned my first steps in this mission, gathering like-minded individuals, creating a safe space where we could discuss our experiences and the truths we had uncovered. The urgency to share what Jesus had revealed to me was now coupled with a calling to empower others. I wanted to help them understand the subtle deceptions that had crept into our lives, the laws crafted to control rather than uplift. I could see how many in our community were struggling silently, caught in the web of expectations and historical constraints. Together, we could foster a movement of awakening, breaking through the barriers that had long held us captive. I started to share my revelations slowly, measuring the reactions of those around me. Every conversation stirred a mixture of excitement and trepidation within me. I pointed out the discrepancies between love and fear, between true spirituality and the traditions that had often dulled our senses. I spoke of the manipulation that fueled conflicts, not just locally, but globally as well. With each discussion, I felt the tension in the air, people shifting uncomfortably, some embracing the truth while others recoiled, fearful of the implications. The reality of my mission became clearer. I was not just promoting a shift in faith, but a radical awakening that could lead to profound change. As I moved forward, the thought of potential consequences loomed over me like a shadow. I was aware that combating the common narrative could lead to backlash, ostracism, or even threats from those who felt their authority challenged. Yet, I felt a strength rising within me, a divine assurance that I was walking the right path. The spiritual war one had recognized was not just an external battle. It was a call to push against the currents of deception, to shine a light in the darkness that enveloped us. I knew that embracing my truth was imperative, and I was convinced that this awakening could spark a fire in others, leading to renewal, reconciliation, and ultimately a transformation in our community. Having experienced the profound revelations during my brush with death, I realized that I could no longer remain tethered to the life I had known. The truths bestowed upon me by Jesus had set my heart ablaze with a fire of purpose, demanding action and a bold step toward a future where faith and authenticity intertwined. I felt an overwhelming urge to abandon my familiar surroundings, the patterns of routine that had long disguised the deeper spiritual war stretching across our lives. Relocating to a new city became a profound symbol of my liberation, a way to shed the weight of unspoken expectations and embrace the calling to share the truth I had discovered. The decision to leave wasn't easy. I knew that by stepping away, I would not only be leaving behind my job as an imam, but also distancing myself from family and friends who might never understand the changes I had undergone. The fear of rejection gnawed at me, but I understood that my transformation came with risks, necessary sacrifices. I needed to emerge from the darkness, to break free from the chains of deception that had long suppressed my soul. With each step away from my past, I felt lighter, as if I was shedding layers of doubt that had clung to me for years. Once settled in my new surroundings, I felt a surge of excitement mixed with trepidation. I began wholeheartedly sharing my story with anyone who would listen. My experiences, my conversations with Jesus, and the revelations that had reshaped my understanding of the world became my mission. I sought out community centers and local groups, eager to connect with others who were also searching for something deeper. Every shared experience sparked meaningful dialogue about the hidden agendas that manipulate our minds and the truths Jesus revealed about compassion, love, and awakening. As I talked with others, I realized that many shared my struggles. They too felt the weight of a spiritual war, navigating through life under the oppressive influence of fear and division. It became evident that the elite's deception extended deep into many lives, reinforcing the systems that kept people isolated and submissive. The truth I shared echoed with startling resonance, igniting a hunger among those who yearned for connection. to be part of something greater that transcended our individual struggles. Through my journey of evangelizing the truth, I found my new purpose blossoming. I became a beacon of hope, not only for myself, but for those who felt lost in the chaos of society. Witnessing others awaken to the love and freedom that had once eluded me filled my heart with immeasurable joy. Each interaction strengthened my resolve, affirming my belief that the path I had chosen was indeed the right one. Together we began to rewrite our stories, fanning the flames of this spiritual awakening that promised to overcome the darkness built upon deception. My journey was far from over, but now I embraced it fully, ready to meet whatever challenges lay ahead as I fought alongside others in this monumental struggle for truth. Now that you've journeyed with me through my experience and revelation, I must leave you with a lingering question. Have you ever felt the stirring of truth beneath the surface of your own beliefs? In the silence of your mind, do you find echoes of doubt that beckon you toward deeper understanding? This spiritual war we're caught in isn't just mine. It's a universal struggle, one that we all share, a reminder that there's more happening in the world than meets the eye. As I stand before you today, newly awakened and empowered, I implore you to reflect. What hidden truths lie beneath the layers of your own faith? Can you feel the urgency of this battle between light and darkness, love and fear, connection and separation? Many of us have walked in shadows, feeling the suffocating grip of societal expectations that teach us to be silent and compliant. But just as my encounter with Jesus illuminated new paths, I believe that your awakening is waiting too. So let's connect. I want to hear your stories, your thoughts, your moments of clarity that have emerged from the chaos. Leave your experiences in the comments below. Each one holds the potential to inspire others who are wrestling with their own truths. And if you feel this message resonates with your journey, I urge you not to walk away without subscribing to Truth from Beyond. Activate the notification bell so you won't miss the next chapter of our exploration into light and awakening. Because trust me, what's coming next will challenge you in profound ways. As we close this chapter, don't miss our next video, where we'll dive into another extraordinary testimony about breaking free from chains and finding divine love. This journey towards truth is one we take together, and I'm honored to share in it with you. I'm Ibrahim, and I thank you for accompanying me on this path of truth and revelation. Remember, your awakening is not just a possibility, it's a promise waiting to unfurl. You won't want to miss the revelations that are about to unfold, because this message could change everything. The truth awaits. The atmosphere inside the ancient mosque was simultaneously serene and oppressive, as the sun cast its rays through intricate carvings, illuminating the spaces occupied by devoted worshippers. As an imam leading Friday prayers in this conservative Egyptian city, I felt the weight of tradition bearing down on me. I stood before my congregation, adorned in my religious garb, reciting verses from the Quran with a voice steeped in reverence. Yet, beneath the surface, I grappled with a swell of unspoken doubts. The strict adherence to traditions created a spiritual environment that felt suffocating. Deep within, I yearned for something more, something that seemed just out of reach. One fateful Friday, as I guided my community through the familiar motions of prayer, an unusual force enveloped me. It was as if the air had thickened, charged with an electricity that sent a shiver down my spine. As I raised my hands in prayer, a voice broke through the silence, clear and direct, echoing through the chambers of my heart. Ali, it spoke, and I felt my very being resonate with recognition. It was Jesus. The moment shattered my perception, thrusting me into a realm that transcended the physical world. I was overwhelmed by an indescribable light, one that seemed to pierce through the layers of deception I had accepted as truth. In that sacred moment, revelations poured into my soul. Jesus spoke of hidden agendas crafted by the elite, manipulating the minds of the faithful while perpetuating division and conflict. I saw images flash before me, wars raging between nations, leaders exploiting fear to suppress the masses, all driven by an insatiable thirst for control. The spiritual war one once perceived as a distant struggle transformed into a vivid battleground, one that waged not just in the world but within my own heart. I realized how deception had twisted the very essence of faith, turning obedience into a cage instead of a conduit for connection with the divine. The light surrounding me intensified, filling my heart with urgency. Jesus imparted the truth that had long eluded my understanding. The essence of spirituality wasn't confined to structures of worship, but was a living, breathing relationship with divine love. He implored me to break free from the shackles of fear and conformity, urging me to awaken my community to the real battles we face, the ones rooted in misunderstanding and prejudice. The weight of responsibility settled over me like a mantle. I was being called to bring forth this awakening, to challenge the oppressive narratives that had kept my community shackled to false beliefs. As the prayer concluded, I returned to my physical body, the mundane world rushing back in. The moment felt both exhilarating and terrifying, and I realized the path ahead would not be easy. My transformation, though beautiful, was bound to ignite conflict. I would be perceived as a disruptor within my community for questioning the status quo, but the truth I felt compelled to share burned within me like a raging fire. Believing was no longer enough. I was determined to act, to engage with those around me, and to lead them toward the light of understanding and love, even if it meant confronting the uncomfortable realities of our existence. The spiritual war was upon us, and I was ready to join the fight for truth. I'm Ibrahim, a 38-year-old Imam respected within my community, yet I carry a heavy emotional burden that nobody can see. My demeanor is stern, my posture is disciplined, and to the outside world I appear to embody the dedication that my role demands. But inside, I grapple with an unsettling void that gnaws at my soul. The prayers I lead often feel routine, the verses I recite echoing off the walls, without truly penetrating the depths of my heart. I've become like a well-rehearsed actor, performing my duties while the truth of my inner turmoil remains buried beneath layers of expectation. Each week, as I lead Friday prayers, I sense the monotony wrapping tightly around my spirit. The rich heritage of our faith is overshadowed by a veil of unspoken doubts that leaves me feeling trapped in a spiritual routine. I close my eyes and hold on to the words, trying to connect, searching for the spark that seems to have eluded me. But even in those moments of supposed devotion, I feel an emptiness lurking, the sensation that I'm missing something critical, some deeper truth that lies just beyond my grasp. This spiritual war rages quietly within me, fought amidst tradition and expectation. Then, one day, everything changed. A sudden flash of pain struck me as I left the mosque, doubling me over. The world around me faded into darkness, but rather than fear, I felt an unexpected lightness. It was as if my spirit was being lifted into another realm. And then, I found myself enveloped in a divine presence, bathed in warmth and brilliant light. There, I met Jesus, his figure radiant and full of love. In that moment, the burdens that had seemed so heavy melted away, replaced by an overwhelming sense of peace. "Ibrahim," he said, and with that one word a jolt of recognition coursed through me. As Jesus revealed truths, I was thrown into a world of insight. He opened my eyes to the hidden agendas that manipulate our society, exposing how easily people can be led astray by the elite who thrive on division. I saw visions of wars, of leaders igniting hatred to keep us at odds with one another. Each image was a stark reminder of the spiritual deception enveloping our world. The conditioning I had accepted as normal suddenly appeared as a carefully constructed facade, designed to keep the masses in ignorance while the power brokers pulled the strings behind the curtain. In this sacred space, the urgency of these revelations surged within me. Jesus poured forth knowledge about the structure of society, about the systematic oppression by those in authority that kept people from experiencing genuine love and compassion. He urged me to rise above the fears that had kept me silent, to break free from the confines of my past, and to embrace my mission as a bearer of truth. When I returned to consciousness, everything felt different. The world, the people, my purpose. I knew I couldn't return to the same routines. I had been awakened to a powerful truth that demanded action. The thought of sharing this truth with my community filled me with both excitement and dread, but I was ready to embark on this transformative journey no matter the obstacles that lay ahead. As I stood before my congregation during Friday prayers, a profound emptiness settled within me, the weight of my unspoken doubts pressing against my chest. I was Ibrahim, an Imam respected for my discipline and guidance, yet beneath that polished exterior lay a turbulent sea of questions I feared to voice. The prayers flowed through me mechanically, each word echoing hollowly in the ancient mosque walls. I felt disconnected, as if I were merely a vessel reciting verses rather than a messenger filled with genuine faith. The silence of the room only amplified my internal conflict, each bowing of heads feeling like a reminder of the doubts swirling in my own mind. In the quiet of my home that evening, nightmares plagued my sleep, visions that twisted familiar aspects of my faith into something sinister. I'd wake, sweat-soaked and trembling, haunted by images of shadowy figures reminding me of the hidden agendas that lurked beneath the surface of our beliefs. I began to suspect that religion, which once brought me solace, might also serve as a mechanism of control, a tool wielded by the elite to keep the masses in line, compliant and fearful. The thought sparked a tumultuous internal struggle, igniting a fire of rebellion against the very principles I had devoted my life to uphold. The dreams intensified, evolving from mere disturbances into potent warnings. One night, I found myself standing on the edge of a precipice, looking out over a desolate landscape filled with conflict and strife, a vivid representation of the spiritual war being waged around us. I could feel the weight of deception heavy in the air, a thick fog obscuring the truth I deeply yearned to uncover. Each vision of violence and division resonated with the stories I had encountered in Scripture, contrasting sharply with the teachings of love and unity that Jesus embodied. I began to realize that my struggles were not just personal. They mirrored the broader conflict playing out within our society. It was during a particularly restless night that I experienced a moment of clarity. As I lay awake, consumed by my doubts, I felt an illumination wash over me, pulling me from the darkness. In that moment, I reached out and prayed, seeking guidance beyond the confines of tradition. I was met with something unexpected, the voice of Jesus. His presence filled the room, surrounding me with warmth and compassion. "Ibrahim," he said softly yet firmly, calling me into a new understanding. He unveiled the truths that had been hidden from my eyes, revealing how societal structures often distorted the essence of spirituality, obscuring the path to true awakening. Jesus showed me that the manipulation of truth was deeply rooted in the elite's desire for power, exploiting our fears to sow division and chaos. The realization pierced through my heart, igniting a fierce determination within me. I understood that the deceptions I had feared were real, but so was the love and truth that Jesus represented. I felt compelled to share this awakening, to break free from the chains of complacency, and to empower others still caught in the cycle of doubt. The spiritual war was not just an internal battle. It transcended the individual, reaching into the hearts of my community, begging for recognition and change. Armed with new insight and purpose, I knew I was finally ready to embark on the path laid out before me, to speak the truth and challenge the darkness that shrouded our understanding. As I stood before my congregation, the familiar weight of leadership pressed down on my shoulders. I was Ibrahim, a devoted Imam, respected and revered in my community. But as I led the Friday prayers in the ancient mosque, a profound emptiness enveloped my heart, and I felt the rituals begin to lose their significance. My voice echoed through the grand hall, reciting verses I believed in, yet deep within, I struggled with doubts I dared not express. The monotony of tradition felt stifling, as if I were caught in a cycle that distracted me from a deeper faith, a truth I couldn't quite grasp. Suddenly, in the middle of the ritual, a wave of dizziness washed over me. I remember clutching the podium, desperately trying to remain upright as the world blurred around me. Everything went dark, and I collapsed. I slipped into a coma, and in that space between life and death, I was transported to a desolate desert. The ground was barren, the sky an oppressive shade of gray. Darkness stretched endlessly before me, amplifying my feelings of isolation and confusion. It was in this stark landscape that I encountered the most radiant figure I had ever seen, Jesus. He stood before me, illuminated by a light that seemed to cut through the very essence of my being. Ali, he called, yet I knew this wasn't the name I carried anymore. It was a name of my past, one weighed down by expectation and fear. His voice resonated with a power that made my heart race. In that moment, everything shifted. I felt the burden of my spiritual war lifting as Jesus revealed the reality of the struggles that had haunted me. He spoke of the hidden agendas that many, including me, were drawn into, distractions designed to keep us from our true faith. The elite orchestrated these deceptions, maintaining a system where fear and divisions thrived, perpetuating a climate of doubt and disconnection. As I stood before him in that sacred space, the tension I had felt in my waking life was replaced with clarity. Jesus unveiled truths about the societal wounds we carry and the manipulation that allowed those in power to control our thoughts and beliefs. I realized that much of the conflict within my heart stemmed from the fact that I had allowed these distractions to separate me from the love and truths at the core of my faith. It was a revelation that shook me to my core. The spiritual war one fought was not just my own, but a reality faced by countless souls navigating through layers of deception. I was overwhelmed by an urgent call to action. This awakening demanded that I not only confront my doubts, but also share what I had learned with those still caught in spiritual confusion. The power of love and truth needed a voice, a vessel to break through the darkness. I could see how the systemic manipulation had led to social fractures, wars, and deep-seated divisions among people who longed for connection. Each revelation was a sword against the lies. I felt empowered and terrified at the same time. I realized I had been chosen to help others recognize the truth within themselves. As I awakened from my coma, the world felt different, vibrant with possibility, yet heavy with tension. I was thrust back into my life, where the path ahead was fraught with danger and uncertainty. The facade I had maintained was gone, and with it the fear of losing everything I had known. I was afraid of how my community would react to my new understanding, the potential for rejection looming large, but deep within I knew that aligning my truth with my faith was paramount. There was an urgency now that propelled me forward, pushing me to step into the unknown and share the revelation I had received, a beacon of light amid the shadows of deception. Upon awakening from my coma, the world felt disorienting and starkly different from the vibrant visions I had encountered during my near-death experience. The serene light of the desert, where I had stood before Jesus and received revelations about the hidden agendas of power and the manipulation of faith, sharply contrasted with the cold reality I now faced. My body still felt heavy with fatigue, but it was the emotional weight that threatened to crush me. As I stepped back into my life, the first thing I felt was scorn. My family and community questioned my sanity, branding me a heretic for the beliefs I had embraced. It was as if I had been resurrected into a world where love turned to hatred at the mere whisper of doubt. The isolation settled in deep, spreading through me like a poison. Faces that once held warmth now reflected judgment. Eyes that had previously longed for connection now glared with disapproval. I had returned carrying a truth too big for them to understand, and I felt utterly alone in my awakening. Each prayer I attended became a battlefield, the spiritual war waged not only outside but deep within my own heart. How could I reconcile my newfound faith in Jesus with the dogma I had been taught my entire life? How could I embrace this truth when it seemed to push everyone I loved further away? As I walked through the marketplace, I could hear hushed whispers, the husky tones of people discussing the mad Imam who claimed to have met Jesus. It stung like a slap, reminding me that my journey of enlightenment had come at a heavy price.